Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take on this hump day, although it's even more than a hump day because if you look at things, we've got Friday off. So we have this shortened week because of the holidays and everything. Really exciting. I'll tell you what, if I go back to Monday and we had that harsh selling, right? And there was a lot of folks very, very nervous about things. We're talking about volatility. We're talking about this. A lot of people were saying, why isn't the volatility higher? Tried to explain that to you, measure of the S&P and all the rest of it. And we did have that push and everything seemed to be getting pushed to the downside. Well, complete flip of everything on Tuesday. We started off strong, we had a little bit of a pause, and then an acceleration all the way into the close. When you look at all three major indices, the Dow up about a little bit more than 1.5%, but it was the NASDAQ up nearly 2.5% that really did stand out. And then you had the S&P, which was up just under 2% as well. So some strong moves, some impressive moves, 360 points on the NASDAQ. That's a heck of a rebounding kind of a day. All the closing near the highs of the day. And I think that's the important part was the strength going into the close. You oftentimes will see in that last 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even hour of the trading session, see a little give back. We didn't see that. Very, very strong, really impressive. Volatility did come back down like we were talking about, the fact that where it was and why it was trading, where it was trading, and the fact that it wasn't trading in the 30 area where a lot of folks were maybe expecting it to be with some of the harsh selling that we had been seeing. But that was hopefully explained pretty clearly for everybody in terms of the measure of the S&P. And again, I'll just say it real quickly. You got a VIX. When you see the VIX trading around 16, that means about a 1% move per day. And as a matter of fact, when you look back at that move to the downside, it was just slightly more than 1% to the downside, but it was all the major indices. So as we get back into things, we got volatility trading right around 21 yesterday. We had volumes trading a little bit light, underneath 36 million, just underneath 36 million. That was a little bit surprising, but we did see some really interesting. We had two names that were really moving to the upside as far as the volume was concerned over that million contract club. Apple, which has almost always been there, 1.6 million. 76% of the options trading in Apple yesterday were from the call side, just to keep that in mind as well. Tesla, 1.1 million. Matter of fact, we're seeing a pretty decent run today out of Tesla. You're looking at the 10-year. We've been talking about it. It's been struggling to get back up towards that 1.5, but it's gotten a little bit closer, 1.46 yesterday, and that bounce back in crude. Well, with that bounce back in crude, you take a look over at energy, and energy up about 3% yesterday, a big, big move. Those beta names, all of them participating in a big way. And of course, we call those beta names the beta names because that is exactly what they are. They are overproducing from the standpoint of where everything else is moving, and they're moving at a much faster clip. Of course, that moves up and down, but you look at Occidental, you look at APA, you look at Devon, you look at Marathon, all those typical names that I always bring up, all those names having an absolutely rip-roaring run to the upside. Technology, it was the FANG names that really stood out for me yesterday. When you look at the tech and you look at it up, call it 2.5% or so, you look at those FANG names, all of them seem to have been participating very, very nicely. It's great to see the mega caps moving along, and it's not just these crazy names that don't really have any PE, or if they do, it's extreme. So that was a big portion of what we were seeing yesterday. Semiconductors up about 3%, a lot of the contribution there, starting with Micron, but of course you had a lot more than just Micron, but that Micron move 10% to the upside, that was incredible. Then you had financials up a couple of percent as well. Everything's sort of working for the most part yesterday. So the strengths, well, you look at the cruise lines, you look at that area, very strong. You look at Carnival Cruise and Norwegian participating. You look at the airlines, United. We also had Jets option activity yesterday, the ETF for those airlines as well. So that was something that stood out for me. Hotels, Marriott, Hilton, all trading very, very nicely yesterday. Sounds a lot like a lot of folks sort of shaking off a lot about what of the commentary that's been hitting the markets, especially when we're talking about all the variants and everything else. All of the reopen names really in the area that really was starting to take off. I'll throw in casinos, Caesars, Penn. You look through a lot of the different names, all moving to the upside. And then, of course, you get some of these industrials like a Boeing yesterday, had a monstrous day. That was very impressive. I looked at Nike, which is still working very nicely. Obviously, we talked about earnings and so forth, but up 6%, and Disney. So that combination, but not everything was working. We also had, Moderna once again getting hit. We had Biogen, we had Gilead, we had a lot in the healthcare world. We also had some of those safety type names. You look over at at something like GIS, you look at Kroger, KR, you look at Kellogg, some of the names we don't talk about very often, but names that have been moving a little bit because of the fact that people are very, very comfortable with those sorts of names. And I think when you start to get more aggressive, you start to see some of the pressure come back out of some of those names. You look at the markets today, we've had a little bit of up, a little bit of down, nothing huge, but just movement. And it's been interesting because it's been kind of going up and down and up and down and up and down. And you know, whether you're looking at the Dow, you're looking at the NASDAQ, they've both been doing that. Although the last I looked, we were starting to see a little bit of a theme of a move more to the upside. We were starting to see both these indices start to move to the upside together. As a matter of fact, I was looking, and last I looked, and we saw Dow getting close to being up almost 100 points, the NASDAQ almost up 50 points. So starting to move a little bit in concert together. We'll see if that continues, or are we going to be up and down all day? You never know. That's the craziness of the markets. Look over at crude, still trading above 71, kind of holding in for energy. The 10-year still trading right around that 145, 146 sort of an area. Volatility, well, it started the day up just underneath 21, started to slip, and last I looked, we were actually underneath 20 and trading a little bit closer to 1960. So what was going on within? What's going on in the sector side of what's moving around and some of the shifts? One of the things that did stand out for me, early on, we had financials were in the negative. Then they started to move in the positive. So that was a pretty big flip. We also had consumer discretionary starting to move a little bit more to the upside, energy as well. I think that pull started really a little bit more of that movement that we are seeing right now, where the markets were starting to get a little bit more positive and they were moving in concert together. Tesla up strong again today. You look over at Xilinx, that's one of these names that it pops up once in a while. Some of these semiconductors definitely participating. We had Chat participating in the upside, Live Nation. We talked about some of the reopen, Live Nation. We just had option activity in there just a couple of days ago in Live Nation. Pretty interesting to see that nice little move already following up. Airlines a little bit higher, cruise ships a little bit higher. What's not a little bit higher? Well, some of those same names that were starting to pull a little bit yesterday. You look over at Moderna, down 5.5%. CarMax down about 3%. You get the idea. Some of those Chinese names under some pressure. And of course, it's tough to leave it out, but Peloton, once again, down about 2%. So, you know, we're seeing the themes. We're seeing what's really been moving and both to the upside and the downside. And it seems to be playing out very, very similarly to what we started to see a little bit of yesterday. So, two unusuals, and then we've got the halftime report with my man Frank Holland. Looking forward to that. Frank's always great. Frank the Tank. It's going to be fun. And then we've still got one more day tomorrow, but then you, of course, have Friday off. So as we look ahead, that's always kind of fun to take a look at that. So first one that stood out for me as far as unusual, how about GM? Now, it's not a name that we talk about a lot, very frequently necessarily on unusual, but this one is unusual for a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't hit all that often, but two, we're going all the way out to June. So GM was trading 55.15. They're buying the June 65 calls. So first of all, they're buying a lot of time. Second of all, they're going up 10, give or take, call it $10 as far as the strike that they're attacking. 12,000 of those getting bought. And by the way, they are hedging those by selling the June 80 calls against that. Those calls were going for about $3. Those 80s were going close to $1. So they're looking at a spread there that's going to cost about $2 on the spread, capping it off at 80 and probably a smart play. So I like what we're seeing there. Seems like a fairly smart trade if you are bullish on GM, and they're obviously willing to buy a little bit of time, plenty of time, because you're going all the way out to June of this coming year. Pinterest. We don't see that on name a whole lot. At least we haven't seen it in quite a while. Name that was going flying to the upside, had a very, very fast, sharp reversal to the downside. Right now, today, trading 37.66. What are they doing? They're buying the 38 strike calls. Which ones? The ones that expire tomorrow. So this has 2 days, today and tomorrow. It's got to work or that's it. And they're only paying about 16 cents, but they did go all the way up to about 60 cents. 6,800 of these calls being bought today. So interesting to see. You got one with GM, which doesn't hit very often, and you're going all the way out to June. And then meanwhile, we've got Pinterest, which we've seen not too long ago in the past, but we've seen this name on plenty of different occasions, but they are going really, really short term, looking for that bang, that quick pop. We'll see if they get that. Very interesting to see that. We got the halftime report. I look forward to that. Got a busy day tomorrow, man. It's going to be really exciting. Tom Lee's going to be joining us, Market Rebellion, after the close tomorrow. So that's something that's going to be exciting as well. But before that, I got the halftime report today with Frank. Looking forward to that. Take care. Have a great day of trading.